Good morning. Denise Dryden here. About 3 days before the close of 2019, as we bring this decade to a close, I'm out in Bellevue, Washington, doing a I'm taking care of a little dog and watching a house and exploring this side of the water and seeing how it feels. It's interesting. I miss my little island. So, 2019, it means that we're 3 days from closing off this entire decade that started in 2010. So 10 years ago, let's think about that. What was going on 10 years ago? What did you encounter in the last decade? Did you take some time, did you take some things with you that you've been holding on to, like, wow, I learned a lot. Wow, I had some challenges. And sort of go through the review, because I think that it's really important that as we take this decade, we kind of bring it up and we close it and we say, that's what this was. So take some time today and some time tomorrow so we have the 30th, the 31st tomorrow, and the next day to sort of bring together, what did you experience over this last decade? What was it like for you? Did you have children that arrived, grandchildren, children? Did you have children that graduated from high school and left? Did you have marriages that started or marriages that ended? What kind of passings? This was a significant decade for me because I lost my mother. And, I had no idea what losing a mother would be like until I went through it, right? Did you move? Did you have significant beginnings or endings in your career? Really spend some time about, the bigger picture, not the goals, but the bigger picture. What did it feel like to learn things about yourself? Because we have this beautiful gift of hindsight, right? Which is, man, in the last 10 years, significant things happened, and what worked for you and what didn't work for you. So 10 years ago, on January 7th, I pulled into Whitefish, Montana, in a U-Haul rental with my older daughter, Jessie, and the two of us. She moved me up, looked around, and said, I think I want to stay here. And I was like, this is a cool place. So Whitefish, Montana became my home. It also became her home. And I left corporate programs. I'd been in admissions for the last 5 years and, helping families place themselves in a young adult rehab recovery program in a therapeutic high school. And also the last job that I had, I worked in a psychiatric assessment facility, 14 beds, that was working specifically with some of the Asperger's and spectrum diagnoses. And so, there was a point where I was done and I wanted to live in the mountains and I wanted to relax. So I started coaching parents. So I started my coaching practice in January 2010. And what I wanted to do was sort of look back and say, what I learned in that coaching practice is that when you have a kid, a 14 to 19-year-old who can't do school, who can't do, what we all, sort of on that track of, then you finish high school, you get good grades, and you go to college, then you la, 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 la. And you have a kid that goes, no, it's not the track I'm interested in, right? And they fail. Or they flail. It's not really like they fail. It's more like they flail around and they're like, no, this doesn't work for me. And so whether it's school or it's home, and they stop being able to do life the way we think they should, or the way that we want them to, or the way that the rest of their peers do. So the most usual thing, especially when significant anxiety, depression, drugs or alcohol, screen use is at stake, they pick the kids up and they take them out to wilderness, or they take them to a recovery rehab program, right? And that could be anywhere between a month to 3 months. And usually there's this piece where the parents are like, you don't have to worry about her hurting herself anymore, or you don't have to worry about him sleeping in bed, staying up all night and sleeping all day and refusing to go to school. However, it's short. It's just short and nothing's really learned. It's just sort of like, get this kid back into life again. Get them out in the outdoors. Get them caring about life again. And then what do? You move them to a therapeutic boarding school so they can continue with school. You move them into independent living if they haven't been able to do college. So these programs end up being 6 months, 12 months, a year. So that's the niche that I found that was really easy for me to step in and coach, because it's one thing to have all the focus on one child of yours who for years or months has been struggling since kindergarten, struggling since middle school, struggling since they were freshmen in high school, or just not happy, right? It's one thing to keep focusing all the time. I wonder what's wrong. I wonder what we can do. With all the IEP meetings, all the meetings with teachers and counselors and resistance. So what I noticed is that it's really about the parents, because the parents are going through so much confusion of, what do I do? What if I have to change everything? What if I'm part of the problem? What if my concerns, my worries, my control, my expectations are part of the problem, right? So we take the focus off of the teen. We let the teen do his or her work in the program that they're in, and we start to work on how are you doing? Really? How are you doing? How's your work? How's your relationship? How's your relationship to yourself? How easy is it for you to talk about your own feelings? What do you see in the external world? What do you see in the internal world? And are you in alignment with your kid, or are you in this constant conflict of disappointment and hurt? And where else does this show up? So we work on new tools, we work on personal insights, we work on skills, we develop new perspectives. And so this has been the world that I've lived in for the last 10 years, which is what happens when something you planned, something you wanted, something you thought was going to happen isn't going to happen, and you have to put the brakes on and look up and go, I have to change everything. And so, to me, that's the invitation, right? For 2020 as we move forward is, over the last 10 years, what have you had to let go of? What have you had to sort of turn around and go, oh, I've got some stuff I have to do here if I want to have a healthy relationship with my son or my daughter or my partner, or I want to be in a work environment that actually makes me smile, right? So it's about what we thought we wanted and what we created and how we pushed and we controlled and we kept going down the path. And there's a story of, you're taking back roads and you get an hour down this road and you realize, I don't think this is going where I want to go. You really have that choice, which is, do I put my head down and keep plowing through and trying to make the best of a bad decision, or do you stop and go, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. I get to turn around, retrace my steps, look out in the world and go, what works for me now? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Because there's no reason to put your head down and plow and force life forward, right? So over this last 10 years, what did you let go of? What did you come up with an idea? When did you come up with an idea that maybe there's another way to do this, right? So moving forward, between 2010 and 2020, what did you make room for? How did you clear some space out so that you could actually make those changes? What did you do to remove distractions? Did you turn your screens off less? Did you start to exercise or do yoga? Did you start to meditate? These are the kinds of things that I'm noticing that when I'm working with parents who have significant changes to make, is that, what did you do to remove the distractions or the old patterns, right? What did you do to increase can't even talk this morning, mobility or agility? Like, how flexible are you? How adaptable are you? How are you able to listen and not react to something? So it's both on an auditory, on an energetic level. It could even be on a physical level. Like, what does it take to really get out and hike with your kid when they're in a program? What does it take to be able to do significant yoga and stretches and realize that you're getting in touch with your body on a different level? The other thing is, what caught your attention? What has your curiosity? Did you learn something really cool like presence? When I've worked with sensitivities and empathic skills and creating presence in parent relationships, it always ends up moving from their personal life into their work environment, because they realize that that's really how we change the workforce as well, is that we start showing up in complete presence and calmness, and we listen and we ask questions, because we've had to learn how to do that with our kid, right? So this 10 years of coaching adults who are in positions all over the country, all over the world of leadership, is that these skills, this mindset of what sparked your curiosity? What did you learn? What did you have to stop doing? What is it that actually caught your attention and had you move forward? So as we move into 2020, what do you want to know more about? What do you want to explore? What do you want to have some space and time in order to do that? Like, I want to travel more. How do I learn how to travel more, whether I do that by myself or with others? Who do I take with me? Where would I go? What would it look like? What is the new frontier in your life? Because we're in Aries with Chiron, and this is, we can go into astrology and all of that stuff, but I just wanted to say Aries is sort of like this masculine fire, which is, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? I'm a pioneer. I'm an innovator. I'm here to make change. What do I need to do? So how do you embrace that and go, what's the new frontier in my life? Where am I? What catches my attention? Because we've seen so much in the last 10 years that's changed. We've seen so much in the last 10 years, such as, we've normalized energy languaging. We even see it in sitcoms, we see it on commercials, we see it everywhere, which is, the resonance, the dissonance, the concept that there's a vibration that we can align with is showing up everywhere, right? We have expanded the choices of who we love and how we love. We've allowed marriages, same-sex marriages. We've even gone into fluidity, where gender identification, we're seeing much more of this in our younger kids, and we're normalizing that people have a lot of different choices in front of them as to how they want to live their lives. We've seen educational alternatives where you can't do traditional high school. There's alternatives. There's even private tutoring or online programs. These are things that 10 years ago weren't as available, and now they're sort of norm, which is, yeah, of course your kid can't do school. Let's try something else. We've seen a rise in the feminine, both in females and in males, which is, that fluidity, that ability to flow with things, that ability to be intuitive, that ability to respond, right? To bend and respond with things when they come up. And we're seeing much more of this, and we're seeing a lot of resistance to for women being able to say, hey, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so this last 10 years has been an enormous change. We've also experienced some unveiling of some truths that we've been hiding from. It's kind of like, yeah, I sort of figured that was going on, but all of a sudden, boom, it's in the news. It's talking about whether it's our prejudices, whether it's the level of our hate, the disagreements, the lack of any ability to collaborate with someone. And we're also seeing the discomforts of old stagnant systems. We are changing so fast, decade after decade, year after year, month after month, that it makes sense that we're seeing old systems that are clinging on and aren't adapting. So the most obvious one that I'm going to point out is that the mail's now delivered on Sundays. Right? The post office is still closed on Sunday, but you can see mail trucks out delivering like every other system does around the world. The U.S. Postal Service is now open 7 days a week. It's sort of interesting, or delivering 7 days a week. So these old stagnant systems, how do we sort of dislodge them and move them forward? So for 2020, what are you noticing? How are you feeling? And what do you want to create in the next year? Because I'm not a big fan of resolutions or setting goals or being really harsh with, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, I'm going to get on a dating site, whatever, right? I'm going to ask for a raise with my boss. I'm going to reward my children for grades with, blah, blah, blah. These are resolutions that, I'm saying let's pull back from those. And let's go into, what do you want to experience? What do you want to feel like? What kind of dynamic energy do you want to come in and catch you and get you caught up in the future so that you start to get excited about it, right? How can you harness this? And how can you sort of look at what the changes ahead are, and do you want to be a part of them? So I'm going to go, you know, right straight to follow that energy, right? Find out what wants to happen, and look at next year, like what would that look like to be in an energetically dynamic environment where you get to be part of change. So I've been doing these videos now every Sunday for 4 years. I've got hundreds of them on YouTube and on my Facebook site. And this is, you know, for me, this is where I look around, scan, tell you what's going on, and bring you information over and over and over again. And it's been such an honor, and I'm so grateful to be able to continue doing this for you. And I hope it's helpful. And if you want more information on how to get to them, you can just go to DeniseStridenCoaching.com or go on YouTube under Denise Striden, and there's tons of them there. So thank you for being a fabulous follower for the years as I've sort of delved through the last decade and the last changes since 2016 and being a witness to it on the video. You have yourself a good close to 2019, and enjoy what's coming down the road. Okay? You take care. Bye-bye.